This is Curt Johnson. Welcome back to part 2 of Selling You, your USP, Y-O-U-S-P. Today we're going to talk about 17 practical tips in that regard. And as we move forward, though, we want to remember our foundations. One of the foundations of the Renegade phenomena is the ebook and system, the Renegade Network Marketer. Quote, "The wealthiest and most prosperous people in any field all have one thing in common. They know how to sell themselves, their products, services, and ideas." And so that's part of the foundation of being a renegade, is learning to sell yourself. And in that, the people that we draw or attract to ourselves are asking questions about us. Do I trust you? Do I believe you? Do you understand what I need and want? What do you want? What's in it for me? And is it worth it? For our example today, we're going to assume that what we're wanting is contact information, name, email address at a minimum, maybe more than that, phone number, so on and so forth. And what our prospect is asking is, what's in it for me? Well, the valuable information that we're offering them on our websites and maybe newsletters, ebooks, so on and so forth. And what they're asking themselves is it worth it? Do I want to risk giving you my email address in exchange for the information or the further information that you're offering me? And they'll do that is if they know us. Reason number one for people that won't buy from you is they don't know about you. So let's go on that quest then to help those that we're attracting to ourselves know about us. One technical thing before we go into that, if you're wondering why I just faded out Dee Dee, is they've done studies, experts following eye movement, and how the masses, how the millions that are on the web every day look at it. They start in the upper left-hand corner of a website. That's prime real estate. Then the eyes will go over towards the right and the yellow here that you see, and eventually go down and then to the left a little bit and look at the rest of the site. And so when we talk about these practical tips today, that's just good information to know as you're laying out your website, that how someone looks at it is important. And so that's why the upper left is the most important. Then the eyes go to the right. That's also really good real estate, if you will, on your website or your blog or even other things that you're writing. And then the rest of the website goes like that. So as we look at these 17 practical tips, things that you can do to sell yourself, things that you can do to make yourself authentic and real and build trust and credibility with your potential clients or customers. We're going to look at 6 ladies. They're also renegades, some of them very familiar to you, Wendy and Lisa and Alicia and Cammie and Dee Dee and Barbara. And we're going to look at their websites as we go through some of these examples as far as some of the things that you can do. But I want to say right up front, you'll notice that not all of them do all of these 17 tips. What you need to determine, that's why we spent time on, again, your niche market in the last lesson and how it applies to your USP, is some of the things will apply to your target market and some won't. Some of them you might be technically ready to know how to implement in your marketing. Others you're going to have to do that learning curve, whether it's videos, audios, or whatever. And so don't feel overwhelmed when we look at all these examples. You don't have to do them all. You don't have to do them all right away. But these are the things that do work, that are helpful, so that people that are coming to your websites or blogs or material, that will help you say, hey, I'm a real person, and gain trust and credibility in their eyes. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this with tip number 1, which number 1 for a good reason, and that is your own personal picture in the upper left-hand corner. It communicates, hey, I'm a real person. Here I am. That's so important, and you'll see overall in all these examples and the others, that's just a very, very common theme. Tip number 2 is have your name, maybe a quote. Dee Dee starts here with a story, something underneath your picture that is also engaging, that lets them know, hey, this is a real person. It's just not like a service or something like that. Then the eyes will scan over to the right and head back towards the middle of the page. And the third tip is you want to communicate to your audience that you're not flying alone. Particularly with internet marketing, it's important that they don't think you're a lone ranger. As you communicate, I am part of a group, even if it's just you're part of the renegade phenomena, whatever. If you're communicating, I'm engaged with other people on this journey, it will build trust, particularly with your clientele. Now, the fourth tip is testimonies. We're not going to get into that right now or today because the next lesson, lesson number 3, is going to go very thoroughly and deeply into testimonies. So we're just going to move on for now right into tip number 5. And again, we're going to look at different ones on this list and see what they've done and make some applications. So this is Cammie's site. Cammie uses family pictures. That's another tip that you might consider for your blog or website. Her niche market, I would assume, I don't know, I've been to a rodeo but don't know much about the culture there, but it's probably family oriented. Her kids with their cowboy hats and riding horses. She obviously knows this market, speaks their language and understands them and can communicate with them, and pictures do speak loudly. So we're going to move on to tip number 6 and tip number 7 with Wendy. She's also done a great job of marketing herself to her niche market. And one of the things that she's done, there's her picture obviously with some titles and stuff. She uses industry photos. There's a picture of her with pills there. And so in your industry, whether it's network marketing, whether it's success industry, she might have even been with a famous homeschooler, that's her niche market in this example, that thing can build credibility and trust. It communicates, hey, I'm engaged, I know people, they know me, I'm committed to this process, I'm not going anywhere. And then she lists her awards in the industry, which is also something that you might want to do, whether that's network marketing, or maybe she wants some homeschool awards, maybe her kids want homeschool awards. Again, it communicates, hey, this is a real deal for me. We're going to move on to one of the next ladies, not doing them necessarily in order here, but as we get through the 17 practical tips, audio files are also great to use. We're going to see here that Barbara Silva uses audio files both for her own personal projection and in her testimonies when we get to that next week. Voice can communicate so much. We're discerning people, and by communicating in voice added with a picture, it just makes it all that more powerful for people then to be able to relate to you. We're going to move on here and go to a couple of Alicia's sites. With the first one, she uses a video right up front. I want to explain, besides the fact that it's selling Alicia and gaining trust and credibility with her target market, there's also kind of a tip here. Search engines love when the first page that they get to in your website, if people stay there a little bit. So when people click on this video, Google will count the number of seconds someone's on this, and people that will listen to this video, it's only a couple minutes or so, it really helps also in the search engine rankings. Another one of Alicia's sites that she's actually built with Lisa, as you then enter the page and scroll down, you're going to see that they have put their signature, and obviously in a lot of the Renegade material you'll see that Ann and Mike do the same thing. The reason that that's important, again, it conveys authenticity. It says, hey, I'm a real person, and it also says, hey, I'm willing to put my put my name on the dotted line. It conveys, hey, I'm committed, I'm accountable. Again, gaining trust and credibility with your target market. And so that's why, and by the way, to do that, if you don't know how to do that, basically all you do is scan your signature, make it a pic file within your computer, and you use it just like any other picture. If you're wondering how that's done, it's not that difficult. Look for some picture tutorials within Renegade Professional, and you'll be able to get that handled. Well, speaking of that site that Alicia and Lisa did together, I also want to look at something on Lisa's site here for her acupuncturists. She has a slideshow. Oh, I love mountains. And again, what is this communicating? Hey, I'm real. This is where I live. This is part of my life. Dogs and kitties. Oh, man, that's good marketing. Anybody will tell you that. And so as the slides go through, again, it's a little bit more, maybe more professional, communicates, hey, this is who I am. And then as you scroll down, another tip is she lists her certifications, credentials, degrees, that type of thing. Again, depending upon your target or niche market, that can be a very powerful thing to add credibility in you being able to speak into that market and gain an influence there and gain a following. Now, we've had these 6 great ladies, and I've used tips showing them as an examples, and I just thought it was only fair that we had at least one male representation in this lesson, and so we're going to go to a familiar mug to us renegades, whom we appreciate his input into the renegade phenomena so much, and that is Steve. And you'll see right up in the upper left-hand corner, Prime Real Estates, there's his smiling face along with an About Me page. So I didn't want to miss the obvious. The next tip is have an About Me page. Some people really want to dig deep. I've been amazed at when people that I'll talk to on the phone, how much they know about me because they've dug deep into some of my material. They know where I live, how many kids I have, all that. And so some people, that's extra important, so you want to provide that for people that want to dig deeper. And so those are the first 13 tips. I know we went really fast. This lesson isn't designed to show you technically how to implement all of those tips, but to give you the ideas and to show you what those whom are successful are doing so that you can copy some of these tips, do some of them. You don't have to do all of them as you're moving forward. And again, remember the foundation of our book. We need to learn how to sell ourselves. If someone goes to your site and can't figure out who is behind it and who's doing this, even if your content is great, the trust factor has not been built up sufficiently, and your conversion rate from visitors to those that will fill out a form and give you their contact information will be much lower. And so that's just an important thing to know and understand. In fact, as we review these tips, tip number 1, that picture in the upper left-hand corner, Anne has actually done some very scientific studies in that regard, and she found a 15.9% increase when she included her picture on her website versus if it wasn't there. So before we hit the last 4 tips, let's quick review. Have a picture in the upper left-hand corner. Under your picture, have a name, quote, story, something. Somehow in your site early on communicate, hey, I'm not just some lone ranger out here, that you're part of a community. These gals did that with this book. You can do that in a number of ways, even utilizing your association with Renegade. Use testimonies. We'll cover that next session. We showed you some examples of using family pictures, showed you some examples of using industry pictures, which are also powerful, or awards. We showed you examples of using audio files or videos and the perks there. Showed you how you can use your signature. Then showed you how slideshows or certifications and About Me page can all be powerful elements. You don't have to do them all be powerful elements, though, to sell you and your YOU, your USP. And so we're going to move on here to tip number 14 then, which is domain names. And again, Anne has done some study with a Renegade Network marketer there. Your domain name can communicate also credibility. And if you don't come up with a good domain name that fits your niche market, your name, depending upon, I suppose, spelling and length and all that, is also a good option. And found that her name outperformed network sounding domain names. And so, again, another tip. Your email address is another component to convey professionalism to your target market. And then tip number 16, you'll find that telling a story, tell your story, tell stories, let people know who you are. The more unique you are, the more valuable you are to everyone. And we'll probably do another lesson simply about telling stories down the road. I skipped guarantees. I'm not going to go into that because this example was more collecting contact information from potential prospects. But you might want to provide a guarantee if you're actually selling or asking for money and that kind of thing on a site. That's another thing that you can do as a practical tip number 17 to convey trust and credibility as you are marketing yourself. And so there you go, 17 quick tips. If I were in your shoes and you're just getting started, make sure you include the number 1 for sure, number 1 and 2, and then work on including some of these other elements that you are able to as you get forward. We'll cover tip number 4, testimonies, thoroughly in the next lesson, and we'll see you there momentarily.